Yeah, the Edge fans are going to be a little bit more disappointed with the newer models, more so than the old Sky fans. So a bit of a different one today, shoe comparison I got for you guys today. So I'm going to put the Sky and Edge Paris up against the Sky and Edge Tokyo. So we'll go through their similarities, differences, and key features, and hopefully from that, it'll give you guys a good indication of whether you think it is worth the upgrade in going to the new Tokyo models, or should you save yourself some bucks and just stick to the Paris models. But before we get into it, and if you guys haven't done so already and you want to support this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And with the specs, so both neutral road racing shoes, but there are significant differences in the stats there, as you can see. So the big one here in Australia is just the price increase we got from the Paris up to the Tokyo. So $50 price increase here, $20 price increase there in the US. Is that warranted? Well, I'm not convinced yet. And another big one there is just the drop in weight. So it comes in a little bit lighter here, the Tokyo series. That's in both shoes, certainly over the Paris series, but neither are really heavy shoes, so it's not really that noticeable once you're actually running in the shoe. And they've got the same stack heights and the same drop. And in the uppers, well, they are very, very similar. So especially with the upper material. So the old Paris series, they use Motion Wrap 2.0. The new series uses Motion Wrap 3.0. What is the difference? Well, nothing really. The mesh looks slightly different. It's probably a little bit finer here in the Tokyo series, a little bit lighter, but the effect on the actual shoe, I think, is absolutely minimal. Both have excellent breathability. Heel counters though, there is a slight difference in the stiffness of the heel counters. So you're going to get a slightly more rigid heel counter if that's what you are worried about. You're going to get a more rigid heel counter in the Paris series over the Tokyo series. In our padding department, you are going to get a more padded heel collar in the Paris series, so that's the older series, more so than in the Tokyo series. So either way though, I don't get any irritation in either shoe. Shoes have same laces. The fit is pretty good in both shoes. Lockdown, pretty good in both shoes, so no issues in either. I'm going to say the volume though, both shoes are quite voluminous, especially for race shoes, but I will say the better fit is certainly, or for my foot, is within the Tokyo series. But apart from that, changes in the upper are quite minimal. And in our outsoles, as you can see there, virtually nothing between the two shoes, so both using ASICS grip. Both using the same tread pattern, both use the same design on the bottom, and both perform the same way. So the grip in all conditions is really good, especially in the wet with this ASICS grip, and obviously durability is going to be the same as well. And as you can see by the two Sky shoes here, now I'll grab those. Again, it's exactly the same in the Sky. They just mirror each other, same performance, same grip, same design. And in the midsole, so this is where the big difference start to happen in each model. So I've got both edges in my hand here. So the big difference here is just the introduction of the new foam in the newer model. But our old model here, so the Paris, it's just got the one type of foam, FF Turbo Plus, 2 layers. Sandwiched between that is their full length carbon plate. Now the shape of the carbon plate here starts high in the shoe, pretty aggressive sweep forward towards the midfoot here, and it finishes quite low in the forefoot. So with our Tokyo though, they've got same type of carbon plate shape and design, so starts high in the shoe, finishes quite low, but the differences here between the Tokyo and the Paris is just the introduction of the new foam, which I'm sure you guys are already aware about. So top layer, FF Leap, that's the new super foam. It's a lot softer than the FF Turbo Plus that they are using on the bottom level here. So the bottom level, or the bottom layer of foam here, is the same foam that's in the older model. Now, the big differences here between the Edge, so the update to the Edge, and this is probably one that I'm most confused about, and that's the geometry of both shoes, because both these two shoes, ASICS say in their marketing, it's for Cadence runners. So I'm still not sold on the old Cadence and Stride type running, but what's confusing about this, so, is the geometry of each shoe. So this Edge was designed for Cadence runners, and the geometry in this shoe when you run in it, so it's got a very gentle rocker but it's a early rocker. And when you're running in the shoe, you can feel the tilt forward in the shoe is quite far back in the shoe, and it creates it enhances quite a natural motion when you're running, especially compared to other race shoes on the market. And then the brand new Tokyo, so again, designed for Cadence runners. However, what they've done here, the geometry is totally different. So the geometry now, they've moved the rocker later, and it now mirrors the same geometry shape, or very similar shape, that's in the Sky Tokyo and also the Sky Paris. So I don't know how this geometry change now mirrors the other two shoes that were designed for stride runners, now also caters for Cadence runners, but the only difference now is that they've just got their foams mixed up. So somehow the firmer foam on the bottom and the softer foam on the top with the carbon plate shape is now more suited to a Cadence runner, and it's really got nothing to do with the geometry, according to ASICS. But what the issue is here that I found with both models, I know that a lot of the elites in the that used to run in the Paris series, a lot of the elites preferred the edge, whereas most rec runners that I've spoken to, and including myself, I preferred the Sky over the edge. Now, bringing the brand new model, so the Edge Tokyo, like the elite runners, the pro runners, I still believe are preferring this one over the Sky Tokyo, but now a lot of the rec runners I think are leaning towards the Edge, so that is a little bit confusing there. Now I'll go into the Sky in both models. So again, this time I've got the Tokyo in this hand and the Paris in this hand. So again, same type of differences in each shoe. So the Sky just has the pure FF Turbo Plus foam, so 2 layers of that, with a carbon plate that is not as aggressive and doesn't sweep forward, so it's much more centered towards the middle of the shoe, especially in the forefoot here. It's sort of well balanced. You've got about the same amount of foam above the plate, same amount of foam below the plate. But the difference here with the Sky, it had a late rocker in comparison to its counterpart, the Edge, and it was quite aggressive and snappy, so you could really get up on the forefoot and get powering off in this Sky, which a lot of runners absolutely loved, including myself. Now, when we bring in the Tokyo, so the big differences here aren't really in the geometry, because the geometries are still pretty close in the Sky. It's just that introduction again of that new foam, so that FF Leap. So they've just switched it around from the Edge. They've just put the FF Leap foam, which is the softer foam. They've put that one under the carbon plate, and they've got the firmer foam, the FF Turbo Plus, in the top layer. Carbon plate placement though and shape is still, the design is still pretty similar to what's going on in the Paris series. So with the geometries, just to wrap that up, the Sky Paris, the Sky Tokyo and the Edge Tokyo have really similar geometries in the forefoot, so they've got late and pretty aggressive rockers, whereas the old Edge Paris is a little bit by itself or on its own. So this is the only one that has significantly different geometries, or a different place of where the rocker is when in comparison to the other shoes. So if you're a fan of the geometry in the Paris, you're not going to find that in the other shoes. And now onto the ride. So if you are familiar with the Paris series, so the Sky and the Edge I've got here, you'll know that both these two rides, same foam, and they deliver you the same type of feedback when you run, but the real differences between both shoes, as I've just mentioned before, is the placement of the rocker, and it had a significant difference of how I preferred to use these shoes. So with that late aggressive rocker here in the Sky Paris, I absolutely love this shoe. This was a speed machine, so responsive. 5K, 10K, this thing was a beast. You would just get up on the forefoot and it would be super propulsive. Yeah, very aggressively fast. As I said, this FF Turbo Plus, you don't have a lot of sink in it. There's not a lot of bounce. It's more of it's a really quick rebound and a really responsive bounce. But yeah, very snappy. You feel super fast in these shoes. Where the Edge delivered you, as I said, that earlier rocker, so you're not right up on the forefoot feeling super aggressive. You don't have that really big tip forward because it starts further back in the shoe. This one promoted more of a natural stride, and this is where the really strong runners, so the elites, they actually warm to this shoe. But remember, the feedback of the foam in both these two shoes, both the same, so both more responsive, snappy, and they felt really fast. Now, moving on now to the Tokyo Series. So this is going to get confusing because they look exactly the same. So we've got the Sky here. So remember I said both these two shoes have very similar geometries. They've just got the foam switched around. So both these two shoes for me feel very similar. So the differences in the ride are very, very subtle. So you could close your eyes, you could put one of these two shoes on each, send me off down the road, and I would be struggling to find what shoe or which shoe is which. Because yes, the Sky is certainly softer, especially through the heel, and it doesn't feel quite as an aggressive or snappy through toe off, but I'm telling you, the differences between these two shoes are very subtle. So they're nothing like the differences. So you could really feel the differences between these two shoes, especially with that rocker placement. But these other two shoes, I will say, don't believe the hype because they feel very, very similar. As I said, very subtle differences. I probably prefer the edge as well, like most other runners, I think, in this model. It's just because it's a little bit softer and you can dig in through the forefoot and you feel a little bit more aggressive and snappy and a little bit more stable through the heel, where this is just, yeah, an overall bit of a soft and cushy ride. But remember, the differences is subtle. So if you're stressing out on which one to buy, don't be too concerned because whichever one you get, I think you're going to be pretty happy with anyway. But the feedback of the ride in the Tokyo Series, it's certainly not the responsive, snappy, and poppy ride that you're going to get in the Paris Series. So these rides with the new FF Leap foam, they've toned down that responsiveness, that really feel fast, or that really fast feeling snappiness. They've got a lot more softness now, and they feel, obviously I think they're a smoother ride, they're a more comfortable ride, but they certainly feel more mellowed out. Right, so just wrapping up the comparison here with all those shoes. So if you are a fan of the Sky, so you really enjoyed that late rocket geometry and you are thinking about the upgrade, then you could either go for the Sky, or the Edge in the Tokyo Series, because the geometry of all these three shoes are very similar. However, you're just going to get the softer ride in the brand new Tokyo Series. But if you prefer that really fast, snappy ride, then it's probably best to stick to the Sky Paris. Now, if you were a fan of the Edge, with that really early geometry and that natural feeling, none of these other shoes are pretty much a direct, or they don't really link up too well with it because the geometries are so different when this. Because if you love this, you love the natural feeling stride that you got, you love the responsive, snappy feel. Yeah, for me, these two shoes don't really relate to where you're coming from for this. So I don't think you're gonna, I think, yeah, the Edge fans are gonna be a little bit more disappointed with the newer models, more so than the old Sky fans. But anyway, guys, that's it from me. Just remember that these are just my opinions and it's just from my experience of running in all the running shoes. I do know that every runner is different and we all have different experiences. And if you want to share your experience, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. If you want a really detailed description of how each ride performs, then feel free to go back through the channel and actually check out the reviews of each shoe where I do a bit more of a deep dive on how the rides feel for me. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.